Do we want to chat about House oversight? Yeah, I forgot about that in my prep for today's stream, but I definitely read about that, and fuck it, we'll talk about it. Just like real quick. So, hey guys, do you remember that AOC was up for an important not cabinet position, House committee assignment? That being the head of the House Oversight Committee, one of the most powerful committee positions that House Democrats had access to. And instead, Democrats put in Jerry Connolly, a man who's 77 years old, I think, or either 77 or 74, who's dying of throat cancer. And guess what? Jerry, 75. Okay. Guess what, everyone? Jerry Connolly, surprising no one, was still dying of throat cancer after being put into that very important position, and now is resigning from the committee because he's dying and old. And literally everyone said this. And the response that a lot of Democrats had was, it's his turn. He's a special little birthday boy. He's put in the years. And he's actually a very healthy, at the time, 74-year-old, throat cancer notwithstanding. And I'm just so furious about it, but also find it so morbidly funny. Like, Democrats constantly make the worst possible moves. And my take on this is that I think the time of those particular types of Democrats, my hope anyway, is that time is rapidly coming to a close. Okay? That I feel like that time is rapidly coming to a close. And I say that because I've been noticing a shift in the winds politically. You know, with torches carried by Tim Walz. We've covered Tim Walz extensively. But one of the people we haven't talked about that much in comparison, despite the fact that he's been doing some really great work, is J.B. Pritzker. And I wanted to focus today on a speech that J.B. Pritzker gave, I believe yesterday, that is just 10 out of 10. It is exactly what we need.
In other breaking news, Biden has been named Intellectual Powerhouse of Debate 2024 by Democratic leadership. The award ceremony is to happen momentarily.
I really hope you're kidding, but I don't know if you are. I don't know if you're doing a bit or if that's real. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs though. But if that's real, I'm gonna fucking lose it.
Witty.
Hulersaw, thank you for the $5 super chat. If that's real, because that's something I can see Democrats doing. I can see especially Chuck Schumer doing. The way I see it, Dems have 2 options: drastic change or become Republicans. One of those is fucking gross. Yeah, absolutely unfortunate, Ash. Like, I think that when we look into Gavin Newsom is trying to put himself up as like the Republican alternative for when the Trump administration inevitably collapses the Republican Party. And I think Gavin Newsom is trying to set himself up as a Republican. Hence the slew of MAGA folks he's had on his podcast, yucking it up with them, talking about how much his children love them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The other path forward is one being blazed by Tim Walz, who was recently named the what is it? Is it the marshal, the parade head of like the Pride march? Which honestly, good for him. And also, like, we need more politicians to stand up for LGBTQ people now more than ever, because frankly, you know, that's what that actually moves the needle on like trans acceptance, for example. Like it actually keeps us safe. The more of these prominent politicians come out and publicly defend us, you know? And we need more just some guys. Yeah, we need more like Midwest guys in like hunting gear, you know? Let's go. Because I think JB Pritzker is another guy in that vein. And I do want to say one of the reasons I've been hesitant to talk about JB Pritzker is that historically he's been kind of a conservative Democrat. And he's also a billionaire who, at least the only ethical way I can imagine to get $1 billion is to inherit it. And that's like that's how he made his $1 billion. But that being said, with those two major caveats, it seems that in recent years he's been radicalized, or at the very least realized that savvy politics demands a more progressive approach. And he's changed his rhetoric, and he's setting himself up to be someone else who could potentially challenge in 2028. And I think this is a really, really good speech that kind of gets at that.
Well, thank you so much, John, and good evening, Granite State Democrats.
Let's make the subtitles a little smaller.
Well, now you all know that when I was elected in 2018, I asked Governor Lynch to come to Chicago to help me plan for my first year in office. And honestly, it turned out to be the most productive year that any, first-term governor has seen in quite a long time. We enshrined reproductive rights into law. We legalized cannabis. We protected labor rights. We joined the U.S. Climate Alliance. Now, and I'm not going to go through the rest, but it is true that we had an awful lot of fiscal challenges in the state, which now, after...
He looks very Roblox. It's maybe one of the best digs I've ever heard. And yes, he does look very Roblox, but in a relatable kind of way. There are a lot of guys who look like this, and I think that like he's a guy who can speak to guys like himself, you know? Like, we need more just guys.
25 years of getting 21 credit downgrades for the state of Illinois. We've now had 9 credit upgrades in my first 6 years. But here's one thing I learned.
Yeah, I'm just look, I'm not saying he's a great billionaire. Like, oh, we found the one good billionaire, guys. I'm saying he's, as somebody else put it, the least bad billionaire, maybe. Actually, no, take that back. There's one least bad billionaire that I know of, and that's Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, who basically married him, divorced him, took half his money, and now basically spends her days just giving money away, which, you know, good on her. That's what you should do if you marry one of these people. Divorce them immediately.
It's that New Hampshire's Democratic governors know how to get things done. It's great to be back here in the Granite State tonight. I want to thank Chair Ray Buckley. Thank you, Ray. You've been so kind to me personally.
Wait, there's a big difference between a billionaire and a millionaire, though, Pew Pew Askew.
I want to shout out your amazing Congresswoman, Maggie Goodlander. And, of course, your next United States Senator, Chris Pappas.
Chris Pappas?
There ought to be some sort of medal, honestly, given out to Democrats willing to serve in that Looney Tune Republican Congress. So God bless the two of you. Thank you. Senator Maggie Hassan, who had to step out because she had a pressing engagement. A couple of weeks ago, I watched her absolutely...
Shin Godzilla, it's totally fine. Jason Kelly's fine. I was not insulted in the least.
Flambe, Donald Trump's U.S. trade representative at the Senate Finance Committee. Did anybody see that? I loved it. Poor guy. I haven't seen someone look that lost and alone since, Ron DeSantis was running for president.
Damn.
What an honor it is to be here again with a true New Hampshire legend, Senator Jeanne Shaheen. Now, Senator, I'm not sure why anybody would ever want to leave the United States
hell yeah, Alex
Senate.
Loop. Congrats on the win.
Especially not now. But there are few people in the country, truly, who deserve a relaxing and happy retirement more than you. On behalf of your many enthusiastic supporters all across this nation, thank you. Thank you for serving our nation with honor and integrity. So when I was here about 8 months ago at the AFL-CIO Labor Day breakfast, yeah, where are you? Go ahead, yell. There you are, awesome. I laid out the bleak situation that we would find ourselves in if Donald Trump returned to the White House. Now, well, here we are. I gave it to you straight last year, and I'm going to give it to you straight again tonight. In this fragile moment, the direction of this nation will turn on who we choose to listen to, whose stories we decide to tell about what is happening, who we elevate and who we ignore, who we find noteworthy and who we label as just noise. Who we listen to will shape the way we react to events as they unfold. Fellow Democrats, for far too long, we've been guilty of listening to a bunch of do-nothing political types who would tell you that America's house is not on fire, even as the flames were licking their faces. Today, as the blaze reaches the rafters, the pundits and politicians, well, the pundits and politicians whose simpering timidity served as kindle for the arsonists.
Genuinely, on a couple of different fronts here, like J.B. Pritzker on policy has actually been fairly good recently, and fairly good is more than exceeding a bar that is very low, but still, we need people to exceed that bar, bare minimum, to even be thinking about running for president, which he almost certainly is. And also, we need more rhetoric like this. We need rhetoric. We need more people who are willing to basically inspire that feeling of get their asses. Get on them. Point out this shit. Make sure that you are throwing punches not just at Republicans, but at Democrats that do nothing. Okay?
They urge us now not to reach for a hose. Meanwhile, if we took care to listen to the voices of real people, we would hear our neighbors and our friends standing on the streets, outside, screaming for a response, one big enough for a 5-alarmer. So today I want to talk to you about those people. I want their voices to be what we hear, their stories to be the ones that we tell. Andy Smith. Andy Smith lives in Edwardsville, which is a small city in southern Illinois. On February 4th of this year, Andy took a homemade sign to a spot where she figured she would get the most visibility, the intersections of highways 157 and 143, and on her own, she lifted up her sign and she started protesting the Trump administration. Later, she told the local paper that on that first day, she felt like a crazy person standing out there all by herself. And then someone walking her dog saw her sign, stopped, and decided to join her. That helped, Andy said. The next day, February 5th, Andy showed up to protest again, and this time 4 friends came to join her. Well, 2 days later, on February 7th, the small but hearty band of Edwardsville protesters got their first counter-protester, one guy who yelled obscenities at them. But in true Midwestern fashion, that guy later returned to apologize. Andy Smith's protesters now meet every Friday at 1 p.m. Last week, there were 300 of them.
And honestly, the rhetoric here, it's great, right? Like, because this is a story that is playing out all across America. This is not just the story of one protest movement growing organically. It's the story of potentially thousands of protest movements growing organically. And they're going to keep happening. They're going to keep growing. They're going to keep getting bigger and more numerous. And I think that we do ourselves a disservice when we forget or put aside the stories of these smaller protests, because seeds are being planted in basically every community in this country to go out and protest, to go out and get active, to go out and do something about what is happening. And I think this is really good.
Gavin Carpenter is a disabled military veteran and a maintenance mechanic at Yosemite National Park. Every February, Yosemite fills with people waiting to see an event that happens only once a year. The winter sun lights up a waterfall on the face of the park's most famous cliff, El Capitan. This year, on that day, Gavin climbed to the top of the cliff and he hung an American flag upside down, famously known as a signal of dire distress. When asked why he did it, Gavin pointed to the cuts that Elon Musk and Doge were making to his beloved national parks. And he said, "We're bringing attention to what's happening to our parks, which are every American's properties." Lucy Welch. Lucy writes the daily snow report at the Sugarbush Resort in Vermont. Last month, J.D. Vance went on vacation at Sugarbush. So Lucy decided to write, well, a very different kind of snow report. Instead of the usual details about powder conditions and weather, she wrote about what was happening to the diverse and wonderful community of veterans and people with disabilities and LGBTQ plus friends and immigrant workers and people of color. She wrote, all of these groups.
Yo, Chris Clark over in the YouTube chat. Never thought I would take a political seat 4 years ago. I was just voted in as a member of the Commission on Disability for my town government tonight. Congratulations! Let's go! Love to see that for people in chat and people in this community. The more of you get into positions of power, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
I was privileged enough to visit many national parks as a kid. The fact these lovely lands are being gutted and neglected is terrible.
Absolutely, One-Eyed Heathen. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Bolivar is losing his own riding. Good. Fuck that clown. Let's go!
Are being targeted, undervalued, and disrespected by the current administration. And she finished her snow report by writing, I am using my relative platform as snow reporter to be disruptive. I don't have a whole lot to lose. We're living in a really scary time, in a really serious time. What we do and don't do matters. Andy, Gavin, Lucy, those are the names that we should be paying attention to. Those are the stories that I want to share. No pontification, no punditry there, no tortured op-eds about party messaging, no hand-wringing over which battles to pick. These three Americans acted on an instinct that we teach our children as one of their first lessons in life. When you see a danger, you yell for help at the top of your lungs. We Democrats, we shouldn't be comfortable ignoring those cries for help. The fact that so many are speaks to the real reason that we lost last November. What I find ironic What I find ironic about the current conversation surrounding our party is that the voices flocking to podcasts and cable news shows to admonish fellow Democrats for not caring enough about the struggles of working families are the same ones who, when it comes to relief of the struggles of real people, have been timid, not bold.
I mean, it matters that he's able to recognize so publicly that the reason Kamala Harris lost is because she lost the working class. She lost working class folks. She took too much of her economic, advice from, her brother-in-law, not the CEO, but an executive at Uber. It's stuff like that constantly hamstrings the Democratic Party. It is this enthrallment to big money donors that constantly hamstrings the Democratic Party. And hearing at least this guy recognize it, that's good. That's a good sign. This is one of the most powerful politicians in our country acknowledging one of the core problems that we have been dealing with for decades, one of the inherent issues within neoliberalism, and that's good. We need a wing of the Democratic Party that is empowered by this recognition that neoliberalism is the enemy of our movement. It is the enemy of progress. It is the enemy of progressive politics, of working class politics. It is the enemy of any attempt to move this party forward because it is fundamentally a conservative ideology. Neoliberalism is the poisoned pill brought into the party by the Clintons and by Reagan himself. Like, we cannot just allow folks like Gavin Newsom to play around with this populism via neoliberalism idea that he's trying to synthesize out of MAGA. This is not like a winning strategy or path forward. The only path forward is pro working class policies. That's it. Full stop. And you cannot get there by throwing trans people, LGBTQ people, black people, brown people under the bus. You can't do that. We all win together.
They didn't want to fight the health insurance companies and the drug manufacturers. They didn't want to demand an increase in the minimum wage or require paid family leave. They gave in to the powerful hedge fund managers and tech bros whose blind pursuit of profits is now destroying everything that matters to middle-class families, from home ownership to healthcare to veterans benefits.
Because make no mistake, what he's talking about here is neoliberalism. He's specifically critiquing the neoliberal wing of the party. And this is not something that I've seen done nearly enough in Democratic politics. This is kind of the new war within the Democratic Party. It's the war for the soul of the party between the Bernie Sanders, Tim Walz, JB Pritzker, and whatever hellish concoction Gavin Newsom is coming up with.
They told us to ignore the fact that most Americans can't afford a vacation while they're young or a retirement once they're old. Here's the problem with the do-nothing crowd, now telling us what to do. Well, they spent their years watching Republicans illegitimately pack the Supreme Court, take away voting rights from people of color, systematically chip away at the constitutional order. And all the while, they offered, in response, a simple defense of norms and decorum and a blind hope that one day soon, Republicans would wake up to find their better angels. Well, that got us exactly where we are today.
Well, wait, what about Bernie? I just mentioned Bernie.
So, folks, the reckoning is here. And now that this culture of timidity is on full display, those same do-nothing Democrats Want to blame our losses on our defense of black people, of trans kids, of immigrants.
Oh, to be clear, J.B. Pritzker is the governor of Illinois, not New Hampshire. He's just giving this speech in New Hampshire.
Instead of their own lack of guts and
Oh, gotcha,
gumption.
banana. Yes, call them cowards. Call them sons of
Voters
bitches.
didn't turn out for Democrats last November. Not because they don't want us to fight for their values, but because they think we don't want to fight for our values. We need to knock off the rust of poll-tested language, decades of stale decorum. It's obscured our better instincts. We have to abandon the culture of incrementalism that has led us to swallow the cruelty and the callousness with barely a cowardly croak.
Let's go. Let's embrace some MLK. Let's go. More of this.
It's time to fight everywhere and all at once.
I saw that movie.
Now
It
let's
was great.
start with something that should, well, be easy to say. It's wrong to snatch a person off the street and ship them to a foreign gulag with no chance to defend themselves in a court of law.
He's getting a standing ovation right now. Look at that.
And I want to be clear, this is not an argument about immigration. This is an argument about the Constitution. Remember, Trump just last week arrested and deported 3 children under 8 years old, all U.S. citizens, all of them. One of them a 4-year-old with stage 4 cancer. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
This country was founded on the idea of habeas corpus. It's a fancy legal term that in plain words means no government has a right to arbitrarily take your freedom away from you. Preserving habeas corpus is not some fever dream of the left-wing echo chamber. It's a fundamental concept of justice that people have fought and died for dating back to the Middle Ages. It was in the Magna Carta. It was considered by our nation's founders to be so vital to our liberty that they wrote it right into the Constitution.
Yep.
Thomas Jefferson called it the essential principle of government.
It's also in the Declaration of Independence. They specifically call out King George for arresting people and sending them overseas to serve their sentences in foreign prisons. Like, that's specifically in the Declaration of Independence, telling the King of England to go fuck himself. We should not be so casually disregarding it as a nation.
Benjamin Franklin opined that those who would give up habeas corpus for temporary security deserve neither liberty nor security. And Alexander Hamilton wrote that the practice of arbitrary imprisonments has been in all the ages the favorite and most formidable instruments of tyranny. Franklin, Jefferson, Hamilton. Standing for the idea that the government doesn't have the right to kidnap you without due process is arguably the most effective campaign slogan in history. It's the OG of political messaging. So, I mean, what do we think that Colonel Stark was talking about, if not this, when he said live free or die? Today, it's an immigrant with a tattoo. Tomorrow, it's a citizen whose Facebook post annoys Donald Trump. And there are plenty of people in this country who hold opinions that I find abhorrent. But my faith and our Constitution dictate that I fight for their freedoms as loudly as I defend my own. And as a Ukrainian-American Jew who built a Holocaust museum, whose family immigrated here as refugees from the Russian pogroms. Let me say this to Donald Trump: stop tearing down the Constitution in the name of my ancestors.
Another standing
ovation. Do not
ovation.
claim that your authoritarian power grabs are about combating anti-Semitism. When you destroy social justice, you are disparaging the very foundation of Judaism. When the pendulum swings back, and it always does, you will have...
Can I just say, like, especially in a time right now where, like, we have students who are studying at university in this country who were arrested for writing op-eds that mention the genocide in Gaza. We have people who've been disappeared, who have had their student status revoked and imprisoned for, you know, speaking up against, like, the state of Israel and its abuses. And, like, it's really fucking great to see someone with actual power standing up and saying, no, you cannot hide and claim that this clampdown on the constitutional rights of Americans and people who are legally here, you cannot claim that this is being done in the name of Jews. You cannot claim that. Because Judaism is like, what you do is spit into the very notion and the very beliefs of Judaism when you do that. So, like, it's nice to hear pushback on this, and I've heard plenty of pushback on this from, like, activists, from protesters, etc., and that's great. But very rarely have I heard it from, like, a sitting governor, and that matters. That absolutely matters.
Contributed to the climate of retribution that will inevitably follow. So let's dispel another myth from the MAGA Republicans. We Democrats believe that undocumented people who are convicted of violent crimes shouldn't be allowed to stay in this country. Convicted of violent crimes. We want public safety just as much as Republicans do. And when we get back control of the Congress, and we will, and when we get the White House back, and we will, Democrats need to make it a priority to pass real, sensible immigration reform. We need to secure our border. We need to keep and attract hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding people and give them a path to citizenship. Immigration, with all its struggles and its complexities, is part of the secret sauce that makes America great, always.
I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting him to say secret sauce. I wasn't expecting that, and I appreciate it.
Immigrants strengthen our communities, enrich our neighborhoods, renew our passion for America's greatness, enliven our music and our culture, enhance understanding of the world. The success of our economy depends upon immigrants. In fact, 46% of Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants or the children of immigrants.
I was literally just thinking he's got the sauce. I mean, like, there is a part of me where I'm like, this man knows a thing or two about sauces. Like, I feel like if you cannot be from Chicago and not know, well, I don't know if he's from Chicago, but, like, you can't be the mayor. God damn, Jesus, my brain. Can't be the governor of Illinois and not know about sauces. It's a prerequisite. The same way you can't be governor of Minnesota and not know about, like, I don't know, dairy products. It's necessary. You have to. It's a requirement. We make entire sculptures of human beings out of butter at our state fair every year. And then we crown them a princess. That's a thing we do.
The return on investment for America's 250-year commitment to immigration is incalculable. But because of Donald Trump's xenophobia, we've seen foreign students already choosing not to attend our universities and being told to leave. Businesses from overseas are afraid to invest their money here and to bring their executives to our shores. Scientists are choosing...
Just to follow that up, because I feel like I can't just casually throw that out there and not back it up with a citation. Literally, it is a title called Princess K of the Milky Way, and they literally sculpt people out of butter.
They're still trying to figure out the difference between tomato casserole and pizza in Chicago.
Them's fighting words, okay? Chicago-style deep dish is a gift from God, okay? God came down, you know, the second coming of Christ already happened, and he made Chicago-style deep dish, all right? But yeah, they carve ladies out of butter here. It's just a thing. They also, again, do crown them and call them Princess K of the Milky Way. It's a thing. Anyway.
To innovate in European laboratories instead of American ones, already in just 100 days. If the best and the brightest around the world no longer flock to this shining city on a hill, then the U.S. economy is likely to fail. But failure, it's starting to look like that's the point of all this, doesn't it? We have a Secretary of Education who hates teachers and schools. We have a Secretary of Transportation who hates public transit. We have an Attorney General who hates the Constitution. We have a Secretary of State, the son of naturalized citizens, a family of refugees, on a crusade to expel our country of both. We have a head of the Department of Government Efficiency, an immigrant granted the privilege of living and working here, a man who has made hundreds of billions of dollars after the government rescued his business for him, who is looking to destroy...
Just real quick, I do appreciate that basically everyone heard that, like, oh, acting head of the... everyone, the head of Doge is this lady named Amy Gleason that none of us have ever heard of before. And basically, collectively, we just went, nah, we know that's bullshit. And we kept, like, saying what even Elon and the Trump administration have been saying, at least outside of court, that, like, Elon is basically running Doge. We all know that. The lie that they are trying to propagate in court obviously does not hold up.
The American middle class to fund tax cuts for himself. And we have a president who claims to love America, but who hates our military so much that he calls them losers and suckers, and who can't be bothered to delay his golf game to greet the bodies of 4 fallen U.S. soldiers. And we have a grand old party.
Oh God. Yeah, no. Just Paladin, thank you so much for reminding me. Thank you so much for reminding me, because this is fucking nuts. Yeah, Elon Musk just today tweeted this out. He has a fake government ID badge that calls him the Doge Father, with his ID number being 69420. This is a man who wants to father a super race of babies. Moron.
Founded by one of our nation's bravest presidents, Abraham Lincoln, who today would be a Democrat, I might add. But a grand old party so afraid of the felon and the fraud that they put into the White House that they would sooner watch him destroy our country than lift a hand to save it. Democrats, we may have to fix our messaging and our strategy, but our values are exactly where they ought to be. And we will never join so many Republicans in the special place in hell reserved for quislings and cowards.
Yeah, call them quislings. Do it. Let's go. I want to hear you denigrate them more.
It's time for us to be done with optimism about their motives or their objectives. Time to stop wondering if you can trust the nuclear codes to people who don't know how to organize a group chat. It's time to stop ignoring the hypocrisy and wearing a big gold cross while announcing the defunding of children's cancer research.
I think that honestly we need more mockery. We need to incorporate more mockery into our rhetoric of these people to undermine their attempts to appear authoritative. We need to constantly be denigrating Republicans in office. And, you know, in a similar breath, we also need to be like mocking, you know, folks like Gavin Newsom, that greasy ass motherfucker. You know, we need to make sure, you know, these car salesman types in the Democratic Party who are too cowardly to stand up for what is right, we need to make sure that they're also included in our mockery.
And time to stop thinking that we can reason or negotiate with a madman. Time to stop apologizing when we were not wrong. Time to stop surrendering when we need to fight. Our small businesses don't deserve to be bankrupted by unsustainable tariffs. Our retirees don't deserve to be left destitute by a Social Security Administration decimated by Elon Musk.
What's a quisling? Oh, a quisling is basically a traitor. It's a term from World War II. And honestly, yeah, fits.
Fully agree with mockery. All my signs thus far are mocking. Humor is a priceless tool of dissent. It is effective.
It's true. Dissent is aided by humor. It undercuts the, you know, an authoritarian wants to maintain authority, you know? Nothing undercuts authority more than mockery.
Our citizens don't deserve to lose health care coverage because Republicans want to hand a tax cut to billionaires. Our federal workers don't deserve to have, well, a 19-year-old Doge bro called Big Balls destroy their careers. Autistic kids and adults who are loving contributors to our society don't deserve to be stigmatized by a weird Nepo baby who once stashed a dead bear in the backseat of his car. Our military service members don't deserve to be told by a washed-up Fox TV commentator who drank too much and committed sexual assault before being appointed Secretary of Defense that they can't serve their country simply because they're black or gay or a woman.
Hell yeah. This is king shit.
And
Let's
if it
go.
sounds like
King shit, not pejorative. You know, king shit in a good way. Like he's a little, our little king boy. Does that make sense? I'm making it worse. Let's keep going.
I'm becoming contemptuous of Donald Trump and the people that he has elevated. It's because I am. You should be too. They're an affront to every value this country was founded upon.
Yep.
But there's a way out of this mess. I know because I've been to this movie before. When I was elected governor in 2018, it was after 4 years of a very destructive Republican chief executive. He had run on the idea of shaking things up as governor, and he promptly started defunding key government agencies, slashing state benefits, and refusing to pass a state budget. Illinois' credit rating took a dive. Companies fled the state, social service agencies closed, and government services that the poor and elderly and sick relied upon vanished. Does that sound familiar? Illinoisans hated it, even the ones who voted for the guy. They hated it so much that, well, 4 years later, they elected me. But here's the lesson that I learned. When we emerge from this, and we will emerge from this, Our democratic agenda must be bold and our ideas fearless. We must be willing to slay sacred cows and allow the courage of our actions to match the immediacy of our words. And we must deliver on that agenda for working families and for the real people who truly make America great.
Like I don't have a lot to say because he's fucking hitting all the major points rhetorically. What I would need to see, in addition to all of this pinpoint accurate rhetoric, I need to see more policies. I need to see like the vision of a future that is better. This is what Bernie Sanders does. In addition to nailing rhetoric, he is also able to put forward policies that would genuinely better people's lives. And
glad to see normies, including politicians, stand up for autistic PPL. It's
right?
Very heartening.
It is very heartening because it's a really scary time, and not a lot of people are brave enough to actually stand up for autistic folks. You know? So what we need here from JB Pritzker is not merely how do we like push back against this now, but like in the future, what can we build towards? You know? What future can we work towards bringing about that will be better for all of us? Is it wrong to be cynical about this getting his soul sucked out of him by the DNC? I mean, dude's a billionaire. Like, it's going to be hard for the DNC to suck a soul out of him. He is already a billionaire and either lacks one or has sufficient money to simply ignore their advice. So, like, all of that aside, like, he's either like just a really savvy politician here, or like he's going to bring some policy to the table. There's really no getting around the fact that the DNC right now, if we're going to take a look at the DNC, currently is being chaired by Ken Martin, who is not great. He's no Ben Wickler for sure, but like Ken Martin is also like not the worst guy to be in charge of the DNC. And additionally, the vice chair of the DNC is David Hogg, who is absolutely progressive as fuck, to the point where he's announced an initiative to primary do-nothing Democrats. Within the DNC like command structure, they're mostly aligned with JB Pritzker. At least David Hogg is, and I think Ken Martin is at least nominally aligned with JB Pritzker here. So like, I think that when we're taking a look at like how this internal power struggle in the DNC is going to work out, I don't think it's going to favor a bunch of these old turds who are too cowardly to do anything right now. They're too cowardly to actually go out there and fight for what's right under like duress right now. They're certainly not going to be able to do it within the party while looking like they're actually doing anything. You know, they don't have the juice. They don't have the gumption. You know?
I understand the tendency to give in to despair right now, but despair is an indulgence that we cannot afford in the times upon which
I learned that David Hogg may not be as left as we may wish. Yeah, but like no one that's the secret. No one is as left as we would wish. There's not going to be like a fucking communist, you know, there's not going to be like a out and out socialist. Well, maybe. Yeah, you never know. But like, there's no perfect politician ever. There is never going to be a politician that is perfect, a perfect vehicle for what we want. But the point of politics is to continue pushing forward despite that, and to work, you know, if someone is an imperfect vehicle, like ride that vehicle for as long as it will take us in the direction we want to go. And then we hop out, find a new one. It's like hitchhiking. Okay. We're hitchhiking our way towards a better future on these political cars or trains or whatever vehicle you want to insert there into the analogy. It's getting too convoluted, but you all understand what I'm saying.
History turns. Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now.
Hell yeah. Let's go, folks. This is why you keep getting out to those protests. This is why you keep like showing up at your local Democratic meetings, your local DSA meetings. This is why you keep turning the fuck up to those Tesla takedown protests, to your local protests on university campuses. This is why you keep turning the fuck up. Okay? Because we need to keep ramping up this pressure, because the more pressure we put on these morons who currently run this country, the more they're going to fuck up. And the more they fuck up, the less popular they'll be and the less power they will have. That is the simple brute force calculation of what's happening here. And eventually something's going to give.
These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace.
Yep.
They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
Yeah, can we just like take a moment to point out the fact that J.B. Pritzker just got up on a stage as a governor of an entire goddamn state and said no justice, no peace? Remember when like mainstream Democrats were criticizing like essentially the rhetoric J.B. Pritzker just used? And look at how fucking effective it is. We cannot allow these DNC ghouls and consultants who have for the last several decades, your James Carville types, parasitically fed off of the Democratic Party to tell people to do neoliberalism. That's like the most of the job of these consultants. Be afraid. Be afraid. Capitulate. Be a little bit more conservative, because it's not going to help for you to stand up for these marginalized folks. Nah, no justice, no peace.
They must feel in their bones that when we survive this shameful episode of American history with our democracy intact, because we have no alternative but to do just that, that we will relegate their portraits to the museum halls reserved for tyrants and traitors.
Fuck yeah, let's go. Accountability time.
And when the courage of our civic leaders wavers, when they fail to stand up for our country in its moment of greatest need, then we should remind them that cowardice always comes at a cost. In the world's most successful republic, no generation of Americans has escaped our true inheritance, the test that we are given that asks how hard we are willing to fight to keep our society free. It was selfish to think that ours would be the first. But the fact that we are still here, debating the question, tells me our predecessors never failed this test in the past, often in situations just as dire as the one in front of us. Cowardice can be contagious, but so too can courage. And courage born during times when complacency beckons like a siren call is the most important kind of all. Just as the hope that we hold on to in the darkness shines with its own special light. These days, I cling to the courage and the hope demonstrated by Andy and Gavin and Lucy. Courage and hope that risks limbs and livelihoods to go to the most visible place possible, to wave a sign or to post an upside-down flag and remind everyone that what we do and what we don't do matters. So tonight, I'm telling you what I'm willing to do, and that's fight for our democracy, for our liberty, for the opportunity for all of our people to live lives that are meaningful and free. And I see around me tonight a room full of people who are ready to do the same. So I have one question for all of you, Granite Staters. Are you ready for the fight? For real, Granite Staters, are you ready for the fight? Good night, New Hampshire.
People are
God bless
aroused.
you,
I
and
haven't
God
seen people
bless
so
these
aroused in a
United
very,
States.
very long time.
Good job, JB Pritzker. Nailing it. And again, I need to see policy alongside of rhetoric. That rhetoric is really fucking good. But you know who else had really good rhetoric? Obama. Obama's policy failed to meet the needs of the day. And so I need to see policy before I get fully behind someone. But like, that was a damn good speech. And that we need more and more rhetoric like that, because rhetoric like that in times like these, it matters. It matters. Okay? So good job, JB Pritzker. Another one of those people who's been moving and shaking a little bit to set himself up for a potential run in 2028. And I have to say I'm impressed, and can't wait to see what he does going forward. So let's move forward with hope in our hearts and resistance on our lips.
Riverboat Deck is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.